Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. EQA Nostalgia here. And now that the initial shock of Final Fantasy VII Remake being announced is, I can't say it's worn off, but I'm not completely dumbfounded by it. I decided I'd make a video just to discuss a little bit more in detail about the game, some of my thoughts and some of my wishes. And in this video, I'm going to definitely encourage you guys to get in on the conversation in the comments section. It's really important. This is kind of a back and forth between me and my audience. This is something that we've wanted for a very long time, and just by going back and listening to the trailer, I'm going to play it in its entirety so people can hear, because I don't know if people understood that the narrator was talking directly to us. It wasn't really, you know, most trailers, they're not really talking to you. They're just speaking about the game. This is Square Enix like directly engaging us and telling us things. So I'm going to go ahead and play that, and then I'm going to comment on it.
Long ago, we looked upon a foreboding sky. The memory of the star that threatened all burns eternal in our hearts. In its wake came an age of silence. Yet with each fond remembrance, we knew those encountered were not forgotten. That someday we would see them again. Perhaps it was no more than wishful thinking. But after the long calm, there are now the beginnings of a stir. The reunion at hand may bring joy. It may bring fear. But let us embrace whatever it brings. For they are coming back. At last, the promise has been made.
So I'm just going to address the obvious right away. In the beginning of the video, like I'd say like the first 20 seconds, he's just playing to the whole nostalgia thing. He's saying, you know, we know you guys haven't forgotten. This is something that's very important to you. And then he mentions wishful thinking, which, in my opinion, was like just kind of like them taunting us a little bit, not in a mean way, but just saying, you know, you thought this was never going to happen, and you thought this was wishful thinking, and that's just really build up. They want it to build up because they know as people see it, they're going to be thinking, oh, it's another movie. And if you listen at the end, when the crowd starts to cheer, they cheer a little bit when they see the meteor, the symbol for Final Fantasy VII. But then when Remake comes up, everybody loses their fucking mind. But the most interesting thing he says during this trailer is the reunion at hand may bring joy, and it may bring fear. That right there is really interesting, because he's basically saying this might be something that the community is going to embrace. They might be afraid of where it's going to go, because people are thinking immediately, okay, after they're shocked that, you know, this is actually happening, how are they going to pull this off? And I did touch on this a little bit in the first video I did. So I think they're being really careful here by saying that, you know, you might be happy about this, but at the same time you're probably really anxious, because it's something that's really precious to you as a community, and it could easily be spoiled. Then he goes on to kind of boldly say, let us embrace whatever it brings. And that right there is kind of them saying, you know, trust us to get this done, and embrace whatever direction we choose to take this in. So it's a really bold statement, you know, and at least that's how I perceived it. It's kind of like them saying, hey, we've got this. Get behind this and embrace it, because it might not be exactly what people think it's going to be. And, you know, if you think about the game, back then, doing something like that now is going to be so very different. If you think of all the text in the game, it's not gonna be like that. Like all the scenes where we had all this text where you're reading everything, is that going to be cutscenes? I mean, how many cutscenes are going to be in the game? Because there's a lot of text in the game, but it didn't feel like it really pulled you out of the game. So in order for them to go through all the dialogue, it has to be done in a certain way as to not make it like a CGI simulator. And people do complain about that a lot, especially with games like Metal Gear Solid. We see that a lot. Oh, there's less gameplay, there's more CGI, what the hell? So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that. But this is one of those things, it's just really crazy, you know, because the nostalgia goggles, they're in full effect. And it's that can kind of mess things up, you know. It's such a powerful feeling, and it's such a thing that you don't want things to be changed too much. I don't know. I guess it could go either way. People could be really satisfied with it. All I know for certain is that it's going to sell like crazy. It doesn't matter what they do. It's going to sell. Like it might not be well received, but it doesn't matter because the money's already going to be in their pockets. But it will hurt their image. It will definitely, you know, it'll be a massive blow to them if they make a game. You know, if they remake Final Fantasy VII and they fuck it up. But there's just so many ways they can mess this up. And again, I did mention this before, but I think that's why they haven't done it in so long. Some people were thinking, you know, and I've kind of got the same mindset that they were kind of waiting because it was like their ace card. You know, they didn't want to play that hand yet. They wanted to wait until maybe they were like in financial dire straits or something to come out and be like, hey, we're doing Final Fantasy VII now, and kind of bounce back from any kind of problems they might have had financially. That might be the case, but I think it mostly has to do with the fact that they don't want to mess it up. They seem to understand how powerful nostalgia is and how people react to changing it too much. And people want it, but I don't think people really know what they want. I don't really know what I want. I can't really I know that I would like it to be turn-based. I really don't want anything to be more action-oriented like 15 is going to be. That would be okay, but I don't know. I guess I'm not going to know until it's in my hands and I'm playing it, you know. I just hope it's not this complete travesty. I have to kind of trust in them. Everybody has to trust in them to do it right. One of the things about 7 that I like so much is it had a more mature setting than the other ones. A lot of the Final Fantasy games, they had that more lighthearted feel. It was a little bit more of it wasn't like the steampunk gritty style, you know. It was more fantasy. And we saw a return to that with Final Fantasy IX. Final Fantasy VIII did retain some of that old steampunk feel. But it just didn't, you know, it just couldn't hold up to 7. It came right after 7, and it had some serious shoes to fill. And I know a lot of people didn't like that game, but I really enjoyed it. I did. The whole draw magic thing, I think that's what mostly got on people's nerves. But, you know, the storyline, it couldn't hold a candle to 7. It was so hard for that game to stand in its older brother's shadow. But, you know, it's something that has to be done with the utmost care, and that's what they're saying. You know, you're probably happy, but you're also probably concerned, and you need to embrace whatever we do. And kind of like in the wake of all this madness and all this excitement, and E3 is just now starting to wind down. I don't know if people realized, but the 20th anniversary for Final Fantasy VII is coming up. And if that doesn't make you feel old, I was 15 years old when the game came out. I sat down and I thought about it a little bit. I'm like, yeah, I was 15. And it was the first game, it was the first RPG I ever got into, aside from like Legend of Zelda. I mean, the first RPG, if I'm being completely honest with myself, was the original Legend of Zelda. I played it back in like 86, 87, a long time ago. But the first like real in-depth RPG that I actually got into was Final Fantasy VII. Before that, I had never played any of the Final Fantasies really. I mean, I think I played one of them like 2 or something like that when I was a kid on NES way back in the day, but I didn't, you know what I mean? I was just a kid. I didn't really embrace it. the first RPG I really embraced was 7. And I think that's the case with a lot of people. I think 7 was the one that brought them into the game. And I remember my buddy bringing it over, and I was just kind of, I didn't really vibe with it at first because I sucked head. I remember getting killed by like the first boss. I don't remember the name of it. It was like that scorpion robot thing. It whooped my ass, and I was just like, eh. And then one day I got home from school, and I didn't have anything else to play, and I was like, hey man, you should bring that back over here. Let me try it again. And he helped me kind of understand how the battle system worked a little bit, because for a 15-year-old kid, especially back then, it was pretty complicated. But once I started to learn the game, it just got more, it was just so deep, and it was something that I could really put myself into. I could invest time into it. You know, I found myself like reading strategy guides for it because he had a guide, and I remember the guide for it was like really thick. I remember reading it in like study hall and shit like that, trying to just like understand how the different material works and stuff like that. But yeah, for many of us, it was the first major RPG we ever played. So 20 years has gone by, and well, not yet. It will be in a couple of years. So that gives them about 2 years, because the game came out in January. January, I think it was 31st. So they've got a couple of years to get this done. That's really interesting. I don't think a lot of people picked up on that. So we're looking, if you want to know when this is going to come out, most likely, not certainly, but most likely they're going to want to launch this on the 20th anniversary, and that makes a lot of sense. And kind of off topic here, but not entirely, it makes you wonder if they're ever going to remake 8 or 9 or anything like that. If they're going to start going through and remaking all the older games. My favorite Final Fantasies probably have to be 7, 8, 9, and 10. After that, I just kind of started to lose interest. I didn't really care much for Final Fantasy 11, the online one, the first online one. I didn't really care for that. I was a big EverQuest Online Adventures fan, and playing that was just kind of meh. 12 I thought was okay. I liked how they had like a little bit of an MMO feel to it, but I didn't beat it. I actually lost interest in it. And I tried to beat that a couple times, and both times I did, I probably put, I don't know how many hours into it, 40 some odd plus hours into it, and didn't beat it, and just, started playing something else. So many games in so little time. But 13 I never played. 13-2 I never played. I think the last one I really got into was 10-2. And a lot of people didn't like 10-2. I thought the whole dress sphere thing was pretty cool, but it was That's the last one I really beat. But 14, A Realm Reborn, I absolutely love that MMO. I think that's a great game. I haven't played it in a while. I want to pick it up. I want to start getting back into it again because it does have a new expansion now. But yeah, it's a great game series. And I have to wonder if they're going to go through and try to kind of breathe life into the older games. But I'm most interested in 7, 8, 9, and 10. Those are the most interesting to me, because that's like my childhood. That's where I jumped in at 7, and after 10 I just kind of started to move on to different things. You got to figure by that time online gaming started to come around, and that's when I kind of like diverged away. I moved away from offline gaming and got mostly into just purely online gaming, be it competitive or cooperatively. And the series, it just changed so much, It's kind of weird, because if I go back and play 7 right now, I'll play it for the sake of nostalgia. If I'm being completely honest with myself and with you guys, I'll play it for the sake of nostalgia, but that wears off pretty quickly. And then I end up saying, I've done this, like, I've already played and beat the game. I don't even know how many times when I was young. I played and beat it 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't even know, a lot. Back then, when you were a kid, you know what I mean. If you had a game, you played it and you beat it a lot. Especially me, because I didn't, I didn't grow up privileged. I didn't have access to a lot of games. So what I did have, I played the shit out of it over and over again, and that's probably the case with a lot of people, especially back in those days. But going back and playing it now, it's very nostalgic, but I don't know how long I would play it before I just started playing something more modern, And for a lot of people, that might not be the case. They might be saying, "Oh, well, you're not a true fan if you can't sit down and play through it again and enjoy it every moment of it." I do enjoy it. It's just something that's kind of I've done it. I've done it so many times already. And I think that's why people really want the remake, because a lot of people do feel that way. I'm probably not the only one who feels that way. You know, you got the whole nostalgia goggles thing, and then you start doing it, and you're like, you want something new. So the remake is, hopefully it's going to do that. It's going to bring people back into it. They're going to embrace it, and then hopefully it's fucking amazing. Hopefully they keep the materia basically the same. I don't think they should change that much. I really don't. They might be looking at it like, well, people have already done this, and it's already been done. And I think that's a mistake if they take that route. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but definitely let me know in the comment section, because we've seen things like this before, and oddly enough, what reminds me of that is the original Resident Evil movie. They wanted to tell a different story, so they kind of based it off of Alice in Wonderland. Actually, that's exactly what they started to do with that movie. If you look at the original Resident Evil movie, her name's Alice, and they're going into this, they're going down into this hole, and there's the Red Queen. If you've ever seen that movie and you don't know that now, it's clicking with you. That's what they did. Because the director said, oh, we don't want to make the game. People have already played the game. They already know everything. But he was mistaken. Everybody wanted to see Jill. They wanted to see Chris. They wanted to see what they had played in a movie form. They wanted it to be faithful. And it could go off a little bit, but they wanted to see a faithful recreation. And I don't, for some reason, developers just don't understand that. They think that they have to switch it up or people are going to be bored with it. So that's where my main concern comes, especially in terms of combat. Are they going to keep it turn-based? Because I can't really see it not being turn-based. But I don't know, maybe I've just I'm not a developer. I can't see how they can take it to the next level by doing it that way with like an action style. It could be really cool if they do that. I don't know. I'm not a game developer, you know what I mean? I like to play games. But it's something that there's definitely fear there, like the narrator said. A lot of us, I think, are starting to come down off of that high, that, oh my god, they're doing it, and now we're starting to think, whoa, wait a minute here. Are they going to do this right, or are they going to completely fuck it up? Because it's a scary thing. You don't want to see something that you cherish. And we do, I do, I know a lot of you do. It's something that we hold dear to our hearts. We don't want to see it twisted and perverted into something that we never wanted in the first place. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna wrap this up. Make sure you guys let me know your feelings on this. What are your feelings towards the combat system, the materia? How do you want the storyline to be? Do you think it's okay if they go off and do something different? Which is probably most of you are gonna scream no. But yeah, let me know in the comments section. I thank you guys for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.